And we are back. Hello, people. So I went ahead and let it cook, and it was about after a while I realized it was cooking way too much because it was taking like millions of particles. So if you're following along at home, I took a zero off of this. There's an extra zero here, so like 100,000 each frame instead of 10,000, and I took that off because that was just nuts. And if you watch it, I honestly am beginning to think I probably should take another number off of there. But we've got them, so peachy keen. We're going to see what they do. So you can see the exciting part here is, well, I don't know if it's exciting, but the particles match up with our underlying guys. Make dink dink. There's our guys. There's our guys that are coming out. That's them together. And our movement is the movement we went over before. There's still things I'd probably change about that, but we need to move forward. So a big question now is rendering. We need to actually see this and show this as pretty pictures, and there's a lot of little tricks and baubles of the trade that we're going to go and do that. So I really want to jump into that. First thing is going to be these particles as they stand right now, as you see them. They've got age and actually a bunch of other crap we don't care about. The thing they don't have is they have like a default P scale, and they have a color that's okay for our looking at it for noise, but we really want a color that matches up with this kind of stuff that's disappearing, right? And basically, we want to change the color and the size and the alpha. So when it gets to things like that, this is where you start thinking to yourself, we need a point VOP. We need something that's going to, I'm just going to talk about particles for a little while here. I'm going to have a guy that's going to be like our color and our alpha and our size. Set color, alpha, size, let's call this. And it's special, so I'll make it green. Is that what I've been doing for these guys? I think so. At the end of this thing, I got to tell you guys how to make it so it automatically colors these things. I think everybody in the world should stick to the same color scheme. That make me very happy. Anyway, we're going to set it up so that it picks out a certain color and an alpha and a size, and it's going to do that based on, remember that age we have, that normalized age? We're basically going to use that. And then we're going to take, I'm actually going to get rid of in the parameter interface, I'm actually just going to hide everything for now so that I'm clicking these guys and saying invisible, and then it might be off screen, but I'm hitting apply and accept. So that we have, so this will be nice and kind of clean. So if we go into here, and I'm just going to make this full screen for a little while because we're just going to screw around for a little bit with some cool stuff. You notice we have lots of stuff here. We don't have Nage. We have life and we have age. And you'd probably think, oh, that might be the Nage guy in there. It actually, unfortunately, isn't. It's not normalized between age and lifespan. So what I tend to do is literally just grab in and just divide one by the other. So I'm just going to say divide, and I'm going to divide age by lifespan. Age by lifespan to give us a normalized age. So we have an age between 0 to 1. And then this 0 to 1, now we have something that changes over that life. And the way I tend to control stuff, I'm using my hands again, but the way I tend to want to control stuff is ramps. So what I really want to, in other words, we're going to go from like one size to another size. We're going to go from one color to another color, one alpha to another alpha. But we don't want to necessarily have it be linear, which is what you would do by default and throw some things in here. So my again strong recommendation is to use ramps whenever you have anything because it's basically artistic control and bonk. So let's have one for the alpha ramp, and alpha is just going to be a single number. Let's have another yoink. Let's have another ramp that's going to be a ramp for the color and then one for the size. So we're going to call this one color ramp. Woo. Color ramp. I'm going to leave this one as a color, and I'm going to have another one for the size. These again just ramp parameters. This one's going to be the size, and this is basically going to be just a spline ramp, not an actual, not a color ramp. So this is going to be, what do I call these things? Yeah, I really feel like this should just have one name as the name label and the thing here, because it's annoying and I hate having it in different places. So this last one's going to be the size ramp. And again, I suggest coloring or naming these things consistently like that, so when somebody else or a future version of you grabs these things, you kind of know what they are. Okay, so with the which we start with. Let's start with the alpha. It's at the top. You notice there is no alpha output here. Annoying. So we actually are adding an attribute. So I'm going to say add attribute, and I'm going to call it alpha. And I'm going to have the output of this go into the data, the default value of that. I'm going to call it alpha. Whoa. It's a point and it's a float, which they already know. Goes to the first one, local variable name. We call it alpha. Bonk. For the color, we actually do have a place to put the color in, so that's an easy one. Now for the size. The size we have, I'm going to attempt to do this in a different way. There already is an attribute called pscale on there, and we could use a bind attribute, something for fun. I'm actually going to show this to you guys. There's something called bind export, which sometimes works better than this. I'm not sure if it's always applicable or if that's even a word. But if you give it a if you give it a bind and call it pscale, and it by default says use this node to set the attribute, it'll set an attribute on there. Now again, the thing comes out of ramp is 0 to 1. With the color, it gives us a color that's fine. With the alpha, that's fine. But with the size ramp, usually we want to fit it in between a range. In other words, we want to say it goes from this to this over 0 to 1. So basically on the age, we're going to say remember, we're inputting age, like a normalized age. So we're going to say the size ramp will change it, but it'll stay between 0 and 1, right? So I'm going to go from 0 to 1, then we want that to go to, and I'm going to promote both of these, and I'm going to say that's going to go to from a size min, and a size max. Now, about now, you're thinking to yourself, Jeff, we've done tutorials with you before. Don't you normally put some variance in here? We would throw in random, and then I'd complain about random. We would use a turbulence. It's based on the size and crazy crap like that. And yes, if this were for a giant thing on a movie screen, actually, I would do that. And on top of that, I would also noise up where the input of where it looks into and the sizes that it picks, and I would have it be a ramp, so it'd be just a couple big ones and loads of small ones, kind of a ramp that goes down like that. But I'm not going to do that for this one because these are actually particles and they don't look that bad. Okay, so the thing I wanted to show is that if let's go ahead and clean off the attributes. The only thing we really want about these guys is like their life and their, it's basically a bunch of stuff in here. I tend to want to clean off attributes. Now you don't want to, you're going to be careful when you use clean because you'll have these guys and you use clean, you'll go, whoa, what happened? And it's because by default it says remove like unused points and stuff. So we don't actually want that. We don't necessarily want to remove all the attributes. I want to keep things like, I usually say star and then I say I want to keep P, I want to keep N. If they have a velocity, I want to keep that. If they have an age, I want to keep that. If they have a life, I want to keep that. If they have a, what else do they have that was useful? I guess the color we could probably use. Things like P previous, source print, I don't care about. Now ID, I guess I care about. I'm going to keep ID. So let's keep ID and let's keep, what was the other one I said? I don't remember now. I think that's it, right? Life, age. I don't care about force, air resistance. We could actually, we'll keep the color for now too, just to see the previous color. Bonk. Okay, so now we got these guys that are relatively clean. Notice they do not have pscale because we're going to add that. So now we have our add color size guy, which after it's done, you notice we now have pscale in here. And we've also have alpha in here. And we also have a custom variable mapping and yada, yada, yada. So again, this is going to be, you're thinking, hey, you just leave it like this and be silly, but and this is another part of my best practices, being a jerk about things. But when you have things like that, and again, we're probably going to, combine all this up into something we're going to hand off to people. So we want to make it really clear, not give them a whole bunch of stuff all at once. And that means folders. So let's give a folder that says, don't worry, these are nested initially, color, alpha, and size. And you might think, oh, why are we making this look professional if it's just us? It's never just us. It'll be us in the future, and then it'll be somebody else later on, and so forth. And when you go back and reuse assets that you made previously, it's going to be to your great advantage to go, oh, hey, it's really clear what everything is, because maybe you haven't used it in a year and you don't remember what it is. So the color we're going to put in here, the size ramp we put in here. You can see what I'm doing. Basically, I'm saying, what do we call it? Color. I'll even do the same order. Color, alpha, size. So color, alpha, size. With the size, we have the max and min that it goes to. Okay. So now we have this, which again is just a little more pro, I think, in my mind. And what I would say, and I'm going to do this before we cut away and cut back, I'm going to say the alpha. Remember, this is like a, uh, again, and it doesn't always reflect well in here, but we want this is a disintegration. So we want them to be there at the end and then disintegrate at the, there, and then they kind of fade off at the end. So I feel like for most of their life, like, I don't know, 80%, let's say, I want them to have an alpha of 1 and then just go down at the very end to 0. And also, I kind of like things to be, yeah, we use cat. No, that guy's a jerk anyway. Monotone, cubic. Yeah, so we get kind of a soft thing like that. Color, let's just go nuts a little bit with some colors. I'm just going to go put some here, a couple bunk here. Notice I'm just initially clicking and putting guys down, not actually changing the color just yet. Because it's easier for me just to put these guys down and then we'll give them colors afterwards. So like we'll have them start. Remember we have at the beginning, we know what color we want this teal color because that's what they're leaving from. And I would say we even want that for a little bit, right? Then we'll let that go to let's say blue. See how fun it is to see it, watch what it does it. And we'll stay at blue for a little while. 0, 0, 1. Then maybe we'll get towards the end and they'll go to red. And then, I don't know, what's fun happens I go back to blue for a second. And now I'll go back to teal at the end. Now you're wondering why would we care what they are at the end? Because they're going to be disintegrated. We're probably not going to see that. Absolutely true, and you're very smart for saying so. But we're going to reuse this later on when we do our transmogrification, or what the heck I called that thing. So when it goes from here and then goes over and becomes something else, we want this color to match this color. Okay, so that's our color and that's our alpha. Real quickly, I'm going to talk about size. Size, I like the idea of when they're first born, they're large, and then as they float away from the, and again, this might just be an artistic thing for me, but in my mind, when they start, we want them to be pretty large so that they touch each other and they're, taking up the space of the size of the stuff that they're coming off of. But we want them pretty quickly to go down to, smaller stuff. Why? Because we want to be able to see the other stuff being born after it. Then we just want to keep it the same for a while, and then at the very end, we can have them go down to 0 again. So what I'm going to do graphically, and this again is why we picked ramps for all this stuff, so that we could do, little artistic ideas. And if this idea looks stupid, then we'll change it. This is all easy to see and easy to change. And it's also easy for anyone else to come along and go, oh, that's what he did. He was probably thinking of this idea. So I'm going to do this for now. And if it looks silly later on, then we'll change it. But the fun part is now it's going to go like that. Might still be too many particles and too heavy to actually see in motion. And it looks like I might have something wrong with the way we are cutting through the age stuff because there's a little weird stuff with the alpha. Or it might just be a visual thing. Okay, come back for the next lesson and we'll figure out what's going on there. And then we'll get to the exciting part, which is I know on all your lips, which is how to make that part work in a shader, because this is just stuff on the geometry. This is not anything about the shader, nor do we want it to be at this level, because the shader, we want it to actually be high res like that. So how are we going to have all that work out with the shader doing that when normally that doesn't happen? That's the magic of next lesson. Okay, so come back and we'll hit that one.